Let's talk to Mel Stride, Shadow Chancellor. Mel, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Very good to see you. According to Rachel Reeves, our economy is strong. I'll pause for a moment while you stop laughing, but carry on and tell us what the economy is actually doing.
Well, the economy is in a very fragile state, Mike. We have had some growth in these quarterly numbers, but of course the overall record is pretty dismal. I mean, you've got an economy where the budget that Rachel Reeves had back last autumn, she had some fiscal headroom against her fiscal targets. That's the kind of buffer you have against things going wrong. Well, she blew all of that and more. She then had this emergency budget where she's rebuilt some more fiscal headroom by taking some tough decisions. And now, where most people are saying that come the autumn and the budget, that fiscal headroom will probably have gone and we'll be into a round of further difficult things that this Chancellor's likely to have to do, including quite possibly increasing taxes yet again. So we're ending up in an ever-increasing cycle of increased taxes. We've got inflation higher than it would be had they not taken these choices of borrowing vast amounts of money, spending vast amounts of money, taxing businesses, and that being passed on by way of price rises. And that increase in inflation, Mike, that your last voice note, that rather wonderful voice note that just came through, I think was alluding to, is of course keeping interest rates up. And we've got such a large national debt now that the interest payment costs on that national debt are running at £100 billion a year under this government. That's twice what we spend on defence. That's not money going into making us stronger. It's money going down the drain on servicing costs for our debt. So overall, I'm afraid, she doesn't score very highly on the economy, whatever these latest numbers.
No, I mean, that's the problem. I mean, also, is it not rather parlous for us to have to say that 0.7% is not bad? I mean, that's what I'm seeing some commentators say this morning. I mean, I'm not saying it's not bad. I think it's dreadful because it's not really even, it's not even 1%. So the margin of error could be that it's down somewhere like 0.3, 0.4%. You know, the idea that anybody thinks that's encouraging and better than expected is ludicrous, because if you look at all of the things that are happening, the increased, employment costs, the increased national insurance, the fizzy drink tax, all of the things that the nanny state seems to be wanting to do under Labour, is just making everything unaffordable. I just spoke to a lady down in Gloucestershire whose daughter runs a fish and chip shop. The cost of the fish that she buys for 9 kilos from wherever she buys it from is going to rise from £98 to £148, a 50% increase. And that's the kind of increases in products that people are seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, take this figure, 0.7% increase quarter on quarter. If you look at the different months within that quarter, actually growth was much weaker in the third month than it was in the second, was running at about half the level of the second month. The national insurance increases that you're mentioning, and I'd also mention the huge increase in business rates that your fish and chip lady is probably facing too, and the employment legislation that's coming down the line from this government that's going to load up businesses with red tape and additional costs. None of that has been directly factored into these figures, because that is yet to come. That's happening now. That's outside the range that these figures relate to. And if you look at the overall picture, whether it's the IMF, the Bank of England, the Office of Budget Responsibility, they've all downgraded growth for this government. The OBR actually halving their forecast of growth for this year. And this is due to the decisions on tax and spending and the effect on inflation and interest rates and all of those things that are just killing businesses, Mike, like the people that are phoning into your programme.
Yeah, absolutely right. We hear it every single day, and people, can't spend as much money because they don't have it. They can't earn as much money, and so therefore that affects the amount of money going into the economy in general. I mean, one of the other big drivers, of course, of the economy is energy, and the cost of energy in this country, which is still higher than it is in any other part of the world, which seems extraordinary to me. Ed Miliband tweeted in the last hour that the Great British Energy Bill has been passed by Parliament, the first publicly owned energy company in over 70 years, a domestic clean power champion owned by the British people for the British people. I mean, it's not a publicly owned energy company, is it? It's a quango. What does it do?
Well, it is a quango that doesn't produce any energy.
Right.
And in fact, they've come forward with 29 new quangos since they've been in office. You know, football, governance, energy and all the rest of it. I mean, they're loading us up with this kind of additional burdens and bloated state and all the things we need to get a grip of if we're to get taxes down and make life easier for businesses so that they can generate the income and the wealth that will support the economy and society and make people better off. And we've been going in exactly the wrong direction, I'm afraid.
And, I mean, what is the point of GB Energy exactly? Can you work it out? Because I can't.
No, not really. It's consuming billions of pounds. That's the thing that I focus on. Billions of pounds that, of course, are added to our debt. And my point earlier I'm making is that has to be paid for, and that's paid for by way of the interest on it, you know, the cost of the gilts that we have to issue to support that debt. And that is running at ruinous levels, Mike. You know, £100 billion a year just on debt interest is one of the reasons why we can't get one of the reasons why the government will say they can't get national insurance down or get business rates down, the things that will help the lady with her fish and chip shop. And I've been out, Mike, I've been visiting high streets, retailers, down. I went down to Dorset the other day, I saw Beale's, which has been in existence as a department store for 140 years. Okay, it was the oldest department store in the country. It had its Rachel Reeves closing down sale. Literally all the posters in the window, picture of Rachel Reeves, you know, Rachel Reeves closing down sale. That's what this government is doing to our high streets and businesses. Yeah,
it's absolutely shocking, isn't it? Let me play a little clip from yesterday's Prime Minister's questions, because, of course, immigration very much on the lips of everybody this week after Keir Starmer's, you know, Road to Damascus speech last Monday. This is, of course, a Plaid Cymru MP asking a question that an awful lot of people wanted to ask.
This Prime Minister once spoke of compassion and dignity for migrants and for defending free movement. Now he talks of islands of strangers and taking back control. Somebody here has to call this out, Mr. Speaker. It seems the only principle he consistently defends is whichever he last heard in a focus group. So I ask him, is there any belief he holds which survives a week in Downing Street?
Yes, the belief that she talks rubbish.
Now, that was Liz Saville-Roberts from Plaid Cymru, who I think she was asking a pretty genuine question that an awful lot of people would want the answer to. He was unconscionably rude to her there, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was, actually. I wasn't in the chamber because I was down meeting with some aerospace companies and talking about the future of that sector and what we want to do there, so I wasn't able to be there. But from that clip, yeah, it didn't sound like the best answer to me. And I think the point that Liz was making was a very fair point. That the Prime Minister has gone from a position where he's welcomed open borders and the single market and free movement, where he suggested that those that are concerned about net migration, that there's a racist element to having that perfectly reasonable and objective argument and set of discussions, and yet now has apparently in tone and rhetoric at least moved to a different position. But of course what he's proposing isn't going to solve the problem. I mean, when it comes to illegal migration, let's look at his record. We've had 12,000 illegal migrants coming across the Channel this year. That's more than 2024, more than it was in 23, more than 22. You know, it's a record number at this stage of the year coming across the English Channel. Labour are failing on this.
They really are. But he didn't even mention illegal migrants. He's in Albania today to form some form of, you know, third country hub. Well, he could have had a third country hub when he got into power, and that was in Rwanda.
Yeah, exactly. One of the most extraordinary things he did, and on ideological grounds, I believe, was when he came into office and he scrapped Rwanda. We had planes ready to go at the end of July. We were already seeing the deterrent effect of that policy in that a number of illegal migrants in Northern Ireland, within our jurisdiction, promptly left the UK across the border into the Republic of Ireland because they were worried about this deterrent. We saw a complete slowdown of the number of boats coming across the Channel because they were waiting for Keir Starmer to scrap Rwanda before they came over. And we also, Mike, brought in the returns deal with Rwanda, which led to a 93% drop almost overnight in the number of Albanians coming to our country illegally. We know deterrence works. But what this government is doing when it's over in Albania is talking about something completely different, which is the processing of those that have gone through the asylum process, rather than being promptly removed on arrival in our country if you've come here illegally, which was what Rwanda was all about. The government made a terrible mistake in scrapping that and wasted a huge amount of money that we had spent in setting the scheme up.
Exactly right. And finally, I must ask you about this story about David Lammy. I don't know if you've seen it. It's all over the papers today. It was around sort of late yesterday afternoon. He seems to have got into a bit of bother while taking a 360-mile cab journey from Italy to the Swiss Alps. We're not quite sure why he did it, but he's having a row with the cab driver. The cab driver drives off with his stuff. He's claiming that he didn't owe the money that the cab driver said he owed. I mean, it's all a bit weird. The driver's now been arrested by the police and been charged with somehow disappearing off with all of Lammy's luggage, which included some rather important diplomatic papers, we are told. I mean, what's he doing taking a taxi for 6 hours from an official visit that he's making with the King to somewhere private?
So I don't know the full details of that, Mike, and I believe the facts are kind of disputed as between the driver and between David Lammy. So I think it's probably safest on that one for all of us just to wait to see what finally transpires and what the facts. Well, no. Mel. To be fair, you know, in answer to your question, Mike, should he be? Is it right that after an official engagement he then makes a private journey? Then clearly he's entitled to do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But you know, where is the truth? I don't know. Was it that this driver, as is alleged, actually even showed a knife to David Lammy at one point when he was asking for an increase in what David Lammy says was an increase in the fare? But I just don't know the facts. I wasn't there. So
well, all I'm going to say is
I do think it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah, but it's weird. I mean, we can see that it's a bit odd, isn't it? I mean, the thing is, I've been in this game a long time, and whenever I see a story that involves somebody high profile, like a politician, particularly a minister of the Crown, getting involved in strange rows in odd countries with sort of certain circumstances being disputed, it's all a bit weird, and I think more of this will come out. And I just don't, as the Foreign Secretary of this land, I don't think he should be leaving himself open to those kind of situations, even from the security point of view.
Yeah, so I don't know what his security arrangements may or may not have been, and I just don't know the circumstances. But look, it's certainly a very, very unusual story. Let's say that much, and let's see what facts emerge in time. I'll come back on when we reach that point, and we'll discuss it. There we are.
Well, I'll go with it's an unusual story. That'll do for me. Thank you very much indeed. Mel Stride, Shadow Chancellor there, talking about the economy and much else besides. Rachel Reeves says it's strong. Yeah, strong like ox. No, it's not strong at all. It is actually weak.